When people ask me how much it costs to get into FPV racing or acro style flight, FPV mini multi-rotors, my usual answer is between around $900 and $1,500. That I stick by that answer. If you want what I would call quality components that are going to keep you happy in the long term and allow you to do the kind of things that you see other pilots doing that are really exciting, that's my number. But other people disagree with me and say that you can get into the sport on a budget for $500. And I thought, well, let's see if I can let's see how close I can come to that number. So what I'm going to show you is my $500 attempt to get somebody into mini quad racing all up from scratch. Let's see how I did. So I tried to order from as few sites as possible to save you on shipping, first of all. And the two sites I've ordered from are Banggood and Hobby King. The frame set I picked is this 210 frame kit. A 210 is a little bit ambitious for someone who is doing like a first build. If you had never built before, you might want to look at like a ZMR 250 kit, because the 250 is a little bit larger and it's going to be easier for you to sort of fit everything in there. But I think the 210 is actually a pretty good frame and it's going to fly a little better. So I picked the 210 here. Now this one comes with 2300 kV 2204 motors. And that a lot of budget kits come with 1806 motors. I think that most pilots are going to enjoy flying a 2204 2300 kV motor better. It's going to have a little bit more power. It does come with 12 amp Simon K ESCs, which are spec'd to run off 5030 props. You might go up to a 5040 prop with these ESCs. You're probably not going to be running like a 5045 bullnose or a 5040 tri-blade. The motors could probably handle it, but I don't think that the ESCs could handle it. So, but like I said, we're speccing a budget here. It does come with a couple of props. I have specced another 10 props. The Diatone Ghost props are actually, I think I've seen a couple reviews of them. They're actually not bad props for 5030s. I believe that they actually are pretty efficient. So you're going to get decent flight times starting off. They're not going to make the most thrust, but for a beginner, that's probably actually better for you than making too much thrust. And this does come with a NACE 32 Rev 5, which I think it's not a fancy F3, but it's still a fine flight controller. I still fly off of NACE 32 Rev 5s, even though I'm doing fancy things like S-Bus. So I think there's no compromise there in many respects. All right, so that's your frame, your ESCs, your props, and your motors, and your flight controller. You're well on your way. I also included a PDB, which has BEC outputs and actually filtered outputs as well for your camera, and will run your flight controller. And it just will stack. It's a stackable one, just stacks underneath your flight controller. One thing that I've realized that I did not include is standoffs. Let's see if I can find those real quick on Banggood right here. Here's a standoff set. Yeah, okay, we'll just throw that in. I don't know if that's exactly the set you need, but we'll just throw that in for the sake of adding a few bucks for standoffs. Okay. And let's go back and reload our shopping cart here. So then what have I got over at Hobby King? So the hardest place to save money when you're getting into FPV is on your goggles and your sort of your FPV stuff. The copter itself, you can often find budget stuff. I think the best choice on a budget, like for people who just need to spend the least money possible but still don't want to get something that is just absolute junk, is the Quantum DIY FPV Goggle Kit. This actually is far from junk. It's pretty decent. I personally prefer the lighter goggles than the heavier sort of face shield LCD screen. But a lot of people like looking at the LCD screen better than the goggles, and a lot of people actually who have the money and the ability to choose something like a pair of Fat Shark goggles actually prefer something like this. So there's nothing really wrong with this, and if you're trying to get into the sport on a budget, you could do a lot worse. So here is the headset kit, and here is the receiver, camera, and video transmitter. Okay. Now this is unfortunately a 600 milliwatt transmitter. That is not optimal if you're going to be flying with other people because it creates more interference. Something in the 200 to 250 milliwatt range would be better. But it comes with the kit, so that's, you get what you're going to get. Also notice that it's got a right angle connector here, so actually it will be relatively easy to install on the back of the kit here, right in this area for the FPV antenna. It'll be a little fragile there and a little prone to breakage, so that would not be my first choice, but it is there and it will work. As for the transmitter, I've spec'd the Turnigy 9X, which is a fine transmitter. It's especially a fine transmitter for multi-rotors because really all you need for multi-rotors is a 4-channel transmitter. Now I will say there's a problem with this one, and I don't have a good answer for you. And the problem is that this receiver does not have a proper failsafe. The failsafe on this receiver holds the channel values, which I talk in my failsafe video as to why that's bad. That's especially bad for a multi-rotor. So in the interest of getting somebody in the hobby on the absolute minimum amount of money possible, I'm going to go ahead and recommend this transmitter. But really, I think you really would want to go with something. Well, the problem is that the next step up maybe is something like the 9XR Pro with a FreeSky module in it, but that's a pretty substantial jump in price. And I don't know of anything that gets you into a proper receiver with a proper failsafe without having a pretty substantial jump in price. So that's a compromise you make when you're trying to get in on a budget. You need, let's see, there's a transmitter and receiver. Here's some batteries. I've spec'd the Nanotech 3S battery, 1500 milliamp hour, 25C. I spec'd this battery. This is actually a little bit more battery than you need. You could save maybe $4 or $5 per battery, so maybe $20 total. I think I spec'd 4 of them by going to a non-Nanotech battery with a lower, like a 20C discharge rate. But for an extra $20 over the course of the whole project, this is actually a decent battery that you will continue to use maybe as you go to slightly higher props, and you'll get better performance out of this battery with the 5030 props that you're going to start off with. So we get a little bit better than a bottom of the line battery. And you also need to be able to charge those batteries. And I like the AccuCell 6 charger, and I've got a power supply here. This is actually, the AccuCell 6 50 watt comes with a standard DC barrel jack input, and you can, for about $22 you can get it, and for about another $10 you can get the charger. So you can get the AccuCell 6 50 watt for about $30, $35 all up, including the power supply. Whereas the AccuCell 6 80 watt has an XT60 input, and which goes to banana plugs. And so you either you have to do surgery on a regular power pack, which if you're going to build a multi-rotor, certainly that shouldn't scare you. But I didn't want to assume that somebody was going to have to do that. I wanted to pick all off-the-shelf parts, and this was the best I could do with off-the-shelf parts. So you got a $30 power supply and a $30 charger. You could do a little better than that if you were really trying to shave on a budget. And then finally, there's a low voltage alarm. So what's our total here? 337. Hang on. 337. And if we go to Banggood, our cart is at, hello, go. Our cart is at 143. We're at 480. So, can you get into the hobby for under $5? Maybe, if you don't include shipping, which Banggood's going to have free shipping, so good for you. So you may get in under $500 even with shipping. And if you already have all the other stuff you need, like a soldering iron, a hot glue gun, some servo cables, etc., etc., etc. But I think I may have to revise my estimate down. When somebody asks what's it cost to get into the hobby, I think you could get into the hobby, all told, for under $600, and under $500 as your sort of initial layout for the major equipment. Well, let me know what you think of my choices of equipment here, and also let me know if you can think of any other ways I could have saved money. If there's any better equipment I should have picked instead to do a little better. I look forward to hearing what you have to say.